Hi folks, this is Al with BaumBuilds.com, here with another instructional video for the BDT, the Bolt-together Drift Trike you put together yourself. This video is just one in a series of instructional videos intended to be used in combinations with the build plans available through BaumBuilds.com or through eBay, username Auto Beverage. This particular video will cover drawing 353, the engine and CVT assembly. We're already at the shop, so let's get started. Let's take a look at our clean work area for drawing 353, the engine and CVT assembly. Here we have a nice clean workspace with all our pieces that are required to put this assembly together, all laid out. We have our tools and we have our drawing. Let's take a look at drawing 353. As usual, we have our bill of material in the lower right hand corner. We have several views. We have some assembly notes in the upper left hand corner. Now I also have a printout here that's on the website where you'll buy the CVT. This is supposed to be an assembly diagram. I didn't find it very useful, but you can print it out if you'd like. Let's take a look at the tools that we'll need for this. We're going to need a 10mm socket, a 24mm socket, or you can use a 15/16 socket. Either one will work. You don't need both, one or the other, and then you need a ratchet to drive it. Let's take a look at the individual components. Looking here at item 1, the engine itself, you'll see that you're going to get a key included with the engine. You won't need that. The CVT has a built-in keyway, so you can discard that. It'll also come with a service manual, which you should follow. And of course, the engine will not be filled with oil, so make sure you fill it with oil. Obviously, the type of oil is laid out for you in the manual. You'll also get a mini toolkit, which really just amounts to a spark plug wrench. Now, taking a look at the CVT, item 2, it's most likely going to come to you with partly assembled, with the rear pulley here assembled. And then you'll have to assemble the front area to the engine itself. Now, here's the hardware that you're going to see. You're going to see 4 of these 10mm socket screws. These are what's going to go through this plate and into the engine. Now, the plans call for this 5/16 hardware. They call for this hardware in there and washers. But in many cases that will be included. It'll be included with the kit, with the CVT kit, and in this case it was as well. So if you bought the hardware for that, that's fine. Just keep it as a spare. These 4 little guys here are just going to be used to install the cover plate, and those will get fastened here on this flange here. 1, 2, and then there's 2 more on the underside. In this video, we're not going to install the cover. We're going to install that in our final assembly. Okay, and then we have 1 bolt here that's going to go into the engine shaft and draw it all together. So let's get started with assembly. Alright, to start out here, we're going to notice that we have 2 oil fill ports here. This oil fill is going to be inaccessible once you put this on, so you're going to want to tighten that because you're not going to be able to get to it again. So you'll fill the oil from this side. If this gets in the way when you put this up here, I think it's going to depend on where it's rotated. You can always clip some of this plastic away with a little diagonal cutter if it gets in the way. In my case, I don't think it's going to, so I'm going to proceed. I'm going to take my 4 screws here and I'm going to line this up. Now you're going to see that it's only going to go in a certain hole pattern, and it's going to have to be rotated. Okay, you can see I'm hitting here, so you're going to have to find the hole that best pushes this thing straight out the back, and that's going to be right here. So I'm going to line that up just like this and get a couple of those started. Now notice also that I have this block of wood up here, just tilting that engine back a little bit. Just otherwise this is going to hit the ground and you'll hit the table and you'll be fighting against it the entire time. So get yourself a nice block of wood, tilt the engine back, get your 4 bolts lined up and your holes there. With this will be relatively parallel. It'll be drooped down a little bit, but it's only going to line up with one set of holes. So once you get those in place, use your 10mm wrench to drive those in. I'm going to do that and I'll be back. Okay, I've tightened my 4 bolts here using my 10mm socket or wrench. Now you're going to want to tighten this down in a star pattern or crisscross pattern, as if you were changing the tire in your car. You want to go crossways a little bit at a time. And be careful, don't over crank them, because this is an aluminum engine housing and you can strip them out. Okay, so next you're going to take this washer here. This looks pretty much like a plain washer, but it comes with your CVT. You're going to put that on, and then this spacer looks just like that. You're going to put that on, and then next you're going to put the inside of your pulley. You'll see it has a bit of a horn sticking out here that's a little bit longer on the one side. So you want that longer part facing out. You want this flat surface facing you. You see there's a bit of a flange here, like a little cup. You want that to go towards the engine because your belt's actually going to ride against this surface. So again, you remove the key to start. So there's an internal key in these pieces. So you're going to put that on. Then next comes your brass sleeve, which your belt will ride against to prevent it from overly wearing. Next comes your belt. Now you're going to notice, we just talked about the flat surface of this pulley. This pulley also has a flat surface here, and then the opposite side is angled. And then the next part of this pulley that we're going to put on is also angled. You can see it's cone shaped. So when you look at your belt, you have to look careful. There's going to be one side that's flat and one side that has a little bit of a taper to it. So you want to make sure that the flat side goes against the flat pulley. So you're going to put that around just like that, get it down in there, and then work it right up around onto your brass bushing here. And then next you got this piece. It looks like a little 4-lugged piece, but you'll notice one side is smooth, the other side has a couple little notches milled into it. So you want to take that and you want the notches to be facing towards you. And again, it'll have a keyway. So it looks just like that right now. And then next you're going to take this piece. Okay, and again you have the tapered section which has to rest against the belt. So this is going to go on just like this, and you're going to line up these 4 little round notches with the round notches in the piece you just put on, just like that. There you go. And then next you're going to take this cap here, and you'll notice that the flats in here, they're going to correspond with the flats in the piece here. So just like that, you're going to put that on, just like that. And then next is this little washer with a notch out of it. It's like a top hat, so it'll have a protruding part here. Pretty obvious, right? So that'll go in just like that, and this keyway will line up with the keyway, just the way you see it. Okay, so now you're going to take your long bolt, and I'm just going to put a little bit of Loctite on this, just a dab on the end here, since it is a moving piece. Just a little bit on there, and then that goes in here just like that, and then you're going to want to use your 10mm socket to tighten that down. Now if you have an impact driver, that's what you're going to want to use, because you'll be able to tighten this without rotating this pulley. If you don't, then you're going to probably need help from a friend to hold this until you get this properly tightened. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten that, and we'll be back. Okay, we're back, and we have our shaft bolt here tightened. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to run down this nut here, and we're going to do that using our 24mm socket, or 15/16 if you don't have 24mm. They're both about exactly the same size. So we're just going to run this down. Now we don't want to crank it down too much, because there's a thin retaining washer or a snap ring on the back side of this shaft, and if we crank that down too much, we're going to draw that through, and we don't want to do that. So again, if you don't have an impact, get the help of a friend to help hold these from rotating while you tighten them. So I'm going to go ahead and run this nut down, and we'll be right back. Alright, so we got this nut tight now. So about the only thing left to do is to put this cover on, which we're not going to do in this instructional video. This cover will have to be notched somewhere along the bottom, and we'll just do that using a pair of scissors or a pair of tin snips. And that notch will allow the chain to exit from our sprocket back here and go down to our axle pulley. So there's no point in putting this on now. We're going to put it on in a future instructional video in the final assembly of the drift trike. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this aside, but I'm going to take the 4 screws that came with this that are used to bolt this cover on, and I'm just going to put them in here. I'm going to put them in their intended spot just so we don't lose them. And I'm going to run all 4 of those in so we'll have them when the time comes. If you prefer not to do this, then just put them in a baggie somewhere and have them ready. So with that, you are done with drawing 353. Great job. We'll see you on the next instructional video.